The house stood alone, on the hill, dark and brooding, like a watchful crow. Broken windows stared out blindly. Roof tiles were missing, exposing skeletal beams to the stormy sky. The wind howled around the house, a mournful, haunting sound, like a whispered warning. Inside, the man stirred. His name was Silas, or so they said. His face was etched with the passage of time. Hard lines framed his mouth, a permanent frown etched deep. His eyes, though, were sharp, alert, like a predator's. Silas had come to the town years ago. No one knew from where. He never spoke of his past. Some said he was running from something dark, something terrible. The townsfolk avoided Silas and his house. Children whispered stories of strange lights and sounds coming from the house on the hill. They dared each other to go closer, but no one dared too much. Silas was a recluse. He kept to himself, rarely venturing into town. When he did, people scattered, afraid to meet his gaze. They said his eyes held secrets, dark, dangerous secrets. One day, a stranger came to town, young, with eyes full of questions. He was searching for something, or someone. He asked about the house on the hill, about the man named Silas. The townsfolk warned him, "Stay away. Some secrets are best left buried." The stranger wouldn't listen. He was drawn to the mystery, to the danger. He was determined to uncover the truth. He walked up the hill towards the house, unafraid, or so it seemed. The door creaked open, as if inviting him in. The stranger hesitated, then stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and silence. The stranger called out. His voice echoed in the emptiness. No answer. He ventured further, each step echoing in the silence. He found a room, its door slightly ajar. A single candle flickered inside, casting long dancing shadows on the wall. He pushed the door open and gasped. Silas sat alone, in the flickering candlelight. He looked up. His eyes met the stranger's. "You shouldn't be here," Silas said. His voice was low, a gravelly rumble. The stranger took a step back. He had so many questions. Who was Silas? What was he hiding? Why was this house shrouded in fear? Silas stood up. He moved towards the stranger. The shadows danced around him, making him seem larger, more menacing. "I know your secret," the stranger said. His voice trembled slightly, but he stood his ground. He held up a photograph, a faded image of a woman, young and smiling. She wore a necklace just like the one Silas wore. "She's gone," Silas whispered. His eyes filled with pain. "It was my fault." The stranger listened. He learned of Silas's past, of his love for the woman in the photograph, of a tragic accident, and a secret that haunted him. Silas hadn't meant to harm her. It was an accident, but fear had driven him into hiding. He had become a recluse, haunted by his past. The truth hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Silas slumped, defeated. He had lived with his guilt for too long. The stranger placed a hand on Silas's shoulder. "It's time to let go," he said. Silas looked up. For the first time in years, he saw not fear in someone's eyes, but compassion. He knew the stranger was right. He had to face his past. He left the house with the stranger, walked down the hill, towards the town, towards redemption. The house on the hill stood empty once more, but the shadows seemed less dark, the wind less mournful. The townsfolk watched Silas leave. Whispers turned to murmurs of understanding, forgiveness. The truth had set him free, and in doing so, had lifted the shadow from the house on the hill, and from their hearts.